guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. It's cold out, kids aren't really big on fishing in the cold. I'm not really big on fishing in the cold. So we're in the workshop today. Today we're going to build a custom wall mount 4-rod holder. And we're going to do 2 of them. And it's a pretty simple process. So stick around, I'll show you how to do it. Alright, for this project we're going to use a 1x8, and this is white pine. You can use whatever you want, however classy you want to make it, however much money you want to spend. This is cheap stuff, but it'll do the trick. You don't need something crazy. We're going to do 4 holes at 1 1/8 in diameter, and then I want to do 4-inch clearance in between each hole. So that'll be 1.125 times 4 plus 4 times 3, and then we want a clearance on the outer edges of the hole. So I think we're going to have roughly a 23.5-inch wide piece. Let me check on that. That's correct. I'll break this down to you as we go along. So this is an 8-foot piece, 48 inches. We will cut this sucker in half. Let's go to the miter saw. Okay, so like I said, we're making 2 of these, and they're each going to have 2 parts. So I've gone ahead and marked our 23.5-inch line. That's going to give us 3.5 inches of clearance on either side of the outer holes. So we'll just go ahead and cut that. Cut them both at the same time here. Make sure they're squared up. Alright, there's our first set of pieces here. We're going to do the same thing on what's left of this. Make sure it's 23.5 inches. Alright, so there we have it. We've got 4 pieces here, all 23.5 inches long. Those are going to be our backers. Now, because I'm simply using what I have in the workshop today, I didn't go out and buy anything special for this. I'm going to take this 1x6 that I had laying around, and I'm going to do the same thing. Ideally, what you can do is really just get a 1x4, but I'm going to cut this to 23.5 inches, and then I'm going to rip it down the center to give me 2.5 roughly inch pieces. Sand that down later. Now I'm going to take these to the bandsaw and we're going to cut them in half. I could have done that first if I had a bigger workshop, but this space is ridiculously tiny, and I run into the water heater. There we go. An unnecessary step if you buy them this way. Okay, so quick recap. We've got 4 1x8s here. We've got 4 made to be 1x2 3/4. All the same length, 23.5 inches. On to the next step. Okay, so keep in mind this is the backer. This is where your rods are going to go. They're going to go up and through this. This is going to be the top piece for the rod holder. So you're going to have holes every 4 inches for your rods. So let's mark where those holes are going to be on your backer board. And I'll show you why in a second. No, I'm making a rod holder. Okay, so like we talked about, we're going to have 3.5 inches from each side. So we're going to mark that there. That's going to be the outer edge of your first hole. And then it's going to be 1 1/8 inch from that. So this space right here is going to be your first hole. And then you're going to have 4 inches in between, another hole, 4 inches in between, another hole. So let's go ahead and mark that up on this. This is your backer board, but we need to know where those holes are. Okay, so our holes are going to be here, between this space and that space, here, here, and here on this piece of wood. The reason we're marking it on here is because we're going to drill holes for dowels to connect this piece to this piece, like that. And we don't want those holes that we drill in the back of this going into the holes that we create here. We don't want those holes, those dowels going into the open areas. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, as you can see, I've taken and marked where the dowels are allowed to be on this piece. This is where our holes are going to be on our other piece. So we can put the dowels in between without running into our rod holder holes. And like I said before, if you want to have a kid do anything in the workshop, the drill press is a pretty safe bet. You want to make sure they have their safety stuff, but we're gonna have John pull this one off for us. So there's our first hole. We're going to do that 4 more times, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've now got the holes drilled in all of our 1x8 pieces here. Next, we're going to take, all 4 of them actually. Next, we're going to take our first template, the one we marked up. We got a 1-inch line here so we can keep everything on center. We're going to take that 1-inch line and we're going to make a notch over here 1 inch from there. That's going to be our center point for our ledge. So it should end up looking something like that. You don't have to use dowels at all. You can simply pre-drill the back into your ledge and throw some screws in there. I like using dowels. It's an extra step, it's extra work, but I like it. Okay, so once you have that lined up on both ends, like so, you can clamp it down, keep it in place where you want it. You can take your pen, this is why we went through the back. It's not really a recommended technique, but it's on the back. It's fine. This is going to make it a lot easier for you. Mark your hole, or if you want, if you have room, you can clamp it, leave it clamped, drill your holes right from there, or at least mark a pilot, and then you can drill your dowel hole. So obviously these dowels are humongous for the width of this wood. Like I said, I'm going with what I got here though. That's going to go in there. We're going to cut that to size first, and then it'll match together like so. And before we do that though, we have some art to take care of. Alright, onto the design. It can be whatever you want it to be. A lot of rod holders are very simple. You just have the top and the bottom holder, or even just the top holder and the rods hang. But we're going to do a little design. You can do it any different way. I went ahead and printed this off of the internet because I'm not exceptional at freehand. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this guy out, and we're going to trace it onto our board. Okay, so there you have it. Now you can either use a spray adhesive to attach this to your wood. You can use some double-sided tape. You can lay it down, trace it out, however you want to do it. You can use, you can cut this out in the wood, use the absence of this shape, and then put your rail on, or you can cut this into your backer so that this is your backer, sits along your rail, and that's what we're going to do today. So I went ahead and I just traced it in, and I drew some grassy things, and we're going to end up cutting all this out. So you're going to have this silhouette, and then you're going to have, where did it go? This thing right here. It's going to be pretty cool, huh? That's going to be pretty cool. Okay, so much like carving a pumpkin, we're going to start here. We're going to drill a hole and we're going to take that chunk out with the jigsaw. And then we should be able to do the rest of this on the bandsaw. You always want to leave the fragile parts connected to something larger until your final cut. So I'll show you what I mean by that when I cut it. Alright, there's that, onto the bandsaw. We're going to start with the fish and then work our way out. Alright, so there you have it. Your bass is all cut out. As you might have noticed, I had to do a little bit of unorthodox piecemealing because when I lay this on the bandsaw, there's not a lot of clearance here for the depth. The length of this versus the depth of the bandsaw. It was interesting. Anyway, next we're going to move on to the grass, and we're going to do profile here. We're going to cut a profile here along the tips of the grass, and we're just going to dig it out with a bandsaw, or maybe the jigsaw, that might work better. Either way, we're going to get the grass cut out now. Alright, there it is. Pretty nice, huh? Something that I failed to mention to you before was the reason that we keep these in blocks and then cut them out, why these are so fragile, is because the grain of the wood is going this way. It's unavoidable in this piece. So anytime you have something thin coming up like this, every single grain in this is a breaking point. So if you push that too hard, it's not going to take much for these to snap off. That being said, it's really not a big deal because this is going up on the wall. Nobody's ever going to touch these. Just don't drop it on your way to hang it up. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to put the designs on our other three pieces. We're going to cut the dowels to length, and we are going to put the holes in the ledge that will actually hold our rods. Okay, so if you're just gluing up with screws, you can ignore all that dowel nonsense. Then let's get back to the essentials. We need to drill our holes for our rods. So on 2 of these, we're going to go all the way through, and on the other 2, we're only going to go about halfway through. To keep these as lined up as possible, we're going to go ahead and do these in pairs. Now this is... Okay. This is 1.5 inches thick. So we're going to go ahead and go 1 inch. We're going to stick these 2 together with double-sided tape, and we are going to drill 1 inch into that as though it's one piece. Okay, so remember how we're doing 3.5 from either side of this ledge will be the first edge of the hole. So to get the center of the hole, that's 1/8, 1 1/8 hole, it's going to be 3.5 plus half of 1 1/8 to get the center of that hole. So 3.5 plus 9/16. Jono, what are you doing? 3.5. So 3.5 plus 9/16 is 4 1/16. So we'll mark our 4 1/16 on either side, and then in between our measurement should be, it's going to be 4 in between each hole, 4 inches in between each hole. So our measurement should be 5 1/8. So there you have it, 5 1/8 between these, 4 1/16 on the outside edges. Now we're going to come 1 inch in from that and get our crosshair. Well, let's do 1.5 inches. We're going to come 1.5 inches in and do a crosshair. And where those 2 meet shall be where we drill our holes. For this cut, we're going to be using a Forstner bit to keep that cut as clean as possible. And Juliet is going to be doing the honors. Got it all the way. Good job. Better up.
I like creating.
Yeah.
After my hair it hurts. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so there you have it. You got your bottom that we're going to attach to our backer, and we got our top. Your rods are going to go through here, the tips, and they're going to sit on this. Okay, now we're going to mark our final cuts for this piece, and we're going to do this first part by eye, just to give this a little bit of character and depth. We're just going to round out this edge a little bit, just like that. And we're going to cut that, and then we'll use this piece as a template for the other side to make sure they're even. And we're also going to cut into these holes right here and here on the edge, so you can slide your rod up in there and it'll sit nicely here without falling out. So we're going to mark that at the very edge of this hole here. We're going to use a piece of scrap that we have pre-cut here. It's about 1/4 inch. We're going to use that to make sure that all of our lines are about the same space apart for our cut. It'll look something like that. Your rod will slide up in there and sit in this hole. We're going to do that for the rest of the holes and make our cuts. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so once that's cut, it'll end up looking something like this. And we can go ahead and transfer these curves onto this bottom piece just by tracing it out to make sure it all matches, and that should look pretty nice. Alright, so that's what it'll look like. Your top and bottom racks to hold your rods. Now we have one more cut to make, and then we can sand everything down and finish it. Okay, in order to hang this, we're going to attach these, but we want these recessed so that this isn't popping out off the wall when it's hanging. We want it flush on the wall, so we're going to recess this using that same 1/8 bit, or you can use a chisel or whatever you want, but this is going to be the quick and easy way. And that will fit right in there like so. Beautiful. Okay, I've gotten the sanding done. A couple of things I want to mention to you is that, especially this, when you go to sand this piece with those brittle edges, do it by hand. Everything else can be done on an orbital sander or a belt sander or what have you, but do that piece by hand. Another thing I want to point out is for this top part, I've sanded it with an 80 grit, and I haven't gone too heavy on it because I want that stain to really soak in there and give it a nice dark color compared to the front of these, which I did with a 220, and that'll give a nice contrast. So that was intentional, and I'll come back to you when it's all stained. Alright, there it is, all stained, glued up, clamped, the dowels are in. We're gonna let that sit overnight. We'll come back tomorrow, do the other side, and then we'll be done. Alright guys, there you have it. I'm going to do one more thing to it. I'm going to put a polyurethane coat on it, and it will be shiny and beautiful and done. I used red mahogany stain because I love that stain. It's from Minwax. I really like the Cabot stain for that too, actually. I actually prefer the Cabot and red mahogany, but I'm out of that. Both are great stains though. You can't use a polyacrylic, which is my usual go-to, over red mahogany. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. So I need to put my polyurethane stain on over that, but I'm going to leave that out of this video. I hope that you guys can take something from this and you can build something similar to it in your own style. And you know, if you're a catfisherman, put a catfish up top. If you prefer muskie, put a big old muskie up top. Another thing that I'm going to end up doing for my own here is to cut out some other shapes and put them in between to kind of make that piece a whole. It'll look nice. You may be asking yourself, why did he make two of them? Well, one of them is for us and the other one is for you. So if you want to see this completed with the polyurethane on it, check back in a couple weeks, subscribe so you don't miss it. We're doing a giveaway, and we're going to be giving one of those away. So if you like it, subscribe. If you don't, I'm sorry. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this helped you in some way.